Here, this is Lord Potato, and this is what if Asta went to the Naruto world? Yes, I should have put Naruto world, but hey, you already understand this. But yeah, but let me first begin something. However long this is going to be recorded, it's probably going to be recorded like 10 minutes or something, because I need to go to sleep because I'm only going to get 4 hours of sleep, but not the point. I took a shower. I should have realized that I should have not taken a shower. I should just went straight to sleep and done. But the reason why I only gonna get 4 hours of sleep is because of my what's it called? Of my dumbass kind of deciding to watch a ranked stream. Now, whenever this is going to be uploaded, which is gonna be uploaded pretty quick because it's only 10 minutes long, but I'm gonna put a link in the description to a stream because he is going to stream for like 4 a.m. still in the morning, and of course, if you want to go check him out. Go check him out. Say hello and say potato and say please say corn with a P. Don't ask why. Just do it. But no, I'm just kidding. But for real, just say hi to him. But other than that, let me go into this what if. Okay. So we go into somewhere kind of someone dying. Right now, their life is kind of flashing between their eyes. Someone with blonde hair, but of course it isn't spiky like its father's. Kind of saying, Asta-sama, Asta-sama. This is where we go into the very beginning. You're wondering what just happened. Well, we go into the very beginning. Of course, Asta is right now 6 years old. Of course, and where, well, Asta is kind of like 6 years old, and of course, this is where one day he actually got captured by nobles. And of course brought towards his place. This place that was actually kind of trying to experiment on him for why the reason he had no magic. Of course he actually was freed by someone that was also brought with him. Someone that couldn't control her magic much, but of course Asta was mostly being able to kind of like carry her out of it, even though he wasn't strong like a 6-year-old, because yeah, he was still pretty weak. He kind of managed to save her. Of course, she was happy, but this is where she kind of ran away. Of course, never talking to Asta or Asta ever knowing her name. But of course, Asta didn't know where to go home because he didn't know where home was. He walked through some trees, and of course, I should also mention, he was very skinny and scrawny, and of course, very tired and hungry because they didn't really feed him. That's where Asta, he keeps walking through some trees. It started snowing. And of course, he kind of closes his eyes and then reawoken them. Kind of seeing a boy with like an orange jumpsuit coat and all that, kind of getting beaten up by some bullies. This is where Asta rushes towards him and kind of kicks one in the face, saying, "Get away from him." This is where some of the kids decide to try to fight against Asta. But of course, this is where an adult kind of sees it and say, "Hey, what are you three doing?" This is where the adult kind of like scared them off. And this is where Asta kind of like goes down to kind of get the kid. This is where before Asta was able to kind of grab Naruto, because yes, this is Naruto. The older man was about to grab Asta, but of course this is where Ambus and Harusen appeared, saying, "What are you doing?" This is where, the older man said nothing. He decided to walk away because yeah, he couldn't really do anything. This is where, Asta says, "Who are you?" This is where Asta, he only was doing this in his willpower. This is where Asta passes out. This is where Harusen says, "My boy, are you okay?" This is where, we go into a time skip of, Asta and Naruto kind of meeting each other. This is where Asta and Naruto actually were starting living together because of how they act around each other. The reason what happened is Naruto and Asta are the same age, the same height, and of course they are actually the same kind of similar personality to each other. Friendly and nice, and of course wanting to become, the same thing just like their grandfather figure, named Harusen Saratobi. Now Harusen can see that Asta is an orphan. He can't really tell who orphan he is, but of course he can't even tell how much chakra Asta has. But of course he decides to let Asta live with Naruto. This is where something happens. Instead of Naruto in this world getting beaten up multiple times, Asta was actually protecting him, and Naruto will protect Asta. This is where they actually become brothers, and instead of being friends, they actually became brothers. Even though they don't have anyone or no one to actually be calling themselves brothers or siblings or whatever, because they have no one. Of course, Asta forgets entirely about someone, but of course he calls Naruto his brother. Now, of course, Asta takes the last name Uzumaki because he doesn't have a last name. He's just named Asta. But of course, after taking the last name Uzumaki, he is now Naruto's twin brother, Asta Uzumaki. Of course, this is where, both of them grew up in a time skip of we go into a time skip because mostly they were 6 years old, but yeah. This is where we go into a time skip of, what's it called? Mostly a couple of years. Mostly like, how should I say, 6 years in total. So, of course, Asta and Naruto actually become ninjas because they actually train in this one. When they were actually growing up and when they became 10 years old, were like 4 years and all that, they actually made a vow to each other and all that they will become stronger because they realized that they were pretty much failing the academy multiple times. And of course, they decide to help each other to become stronger, doing push-ups and sit-ups and all that. But this is where Asta felt much stronger in this world. For some reason, something in his body felt like he was getting energy. Like, he felt more alive than ever, instead of the one he was in his own world. This is because Asta has chakra in this world. He actually developed chakra. He couldn't develop magic. Think of it like this. There's 2 glass vials for Asta. There's a broken one, and there's now another one that's actually being created and having liquid inside it. That is a chakra. The one that's kind of broken and shattered is basically his magic. His non-existent magic. Of course, this is where Asta has actually kind of developed chakra. This is where, if you're wondering, does he still have the anti-magic? I'll explain that later. I'll explain how he will get that later. But of course, this is where both Naruto and Asta did kind of like went through training and also doing some like basic chakra jutsus. Now I should mention one thing. For some reason, Asta was actually getting a lot of chakra. He wasn't an Uzumaki, he wasn't from a Pacific clan, but he still developed so much chakra. Not because he was next to Naruto. There's no way in hell Naruto can actually give him chakra. But Asta was just able to develop super fast and a lot of chakra. But this chakra was kind of potent at the same time. It was very kind of dense and potent at the same time. And so with this chakra being developed for Asta, Asta was now able to kind of be able to do jutsus and other things. He's able to use substitution jutsu. He couldn't actually do the shadow clone jutsu like the basic kind of illusion one that's bullshit. He couldn't really do that one. But of course, he actually managed to learn how to do the multi-shadow clone jutsu. I'll explain how he do that. But he actually also learned how to do henjutsu. And the same kind of illusion, not illusion style, the actual physical kind of copy style like Naruto does. But yeah, because Asta does have a lot of chakra in this. This is where, both Naruto and Asta has just been training each other, pushing each other towards their own limits. Now, of course, Naruto isn't that much of a loudmouth and goofy at the same time. Well, he is, like in original canon, but not as much. Of course, he sometimes needs to calm down Asta because Asta does get angry when whoever talks shit to his brother. Now, of course, where Asta sometimes is the same similar towards Naruto. So, of course, they can be nice, but they can also be ruthless. Of course, this is where, they went to pass the graduation exam at 12 years old. Of course, Naruto doesn't have that whole kind of like distant relationship with Sasuke because Naruto doesn't give a shit. Now, Asta doesn't give a shit neither. They don't really care about the Uchiha, even the Uchiha massacre and blah blah blah, because Naruto was never alone in this one. Well, he was in the very beginning, but when he was 6 years old, meeting Asta, he hasn't actually been alone. He had his brother. So of course, that they don't really care about what's it called, Sasuke's whole fucking problem. But yeah, this is where Mizuki still tries to trick them, but instead of Naruto being falling for this, both Asta and Naruto already knew what was going to happen. This is where they kind of did take the scroll of sealing just to kind of learn maybe a jutsu and all that. Asta learned 2 forbidden jutsus. One jutsu was actually called the Flying Raijin. Yes, the Flying Raijin was in it from the 4 Hokage. And the other one was the multi-shadow clone jutsu. Now, Naruto learned 2 also ones. He learned the multi-shadow clone jutsu, of course, but he learned the Rasengan. He learned the Rasengan pretty early. This is where, When Mizuki got there, and of course Ruka tried to protect both Asta and Naruto, because Ruka didn't hate Naruto or Asta. This is where, well, Mizuki says, oh, that demon and that demon worshiper is gonna die. This is what Asta says, what? You call Haruka-sama. This is where both of them gets angry. This is where Naruto's eyes go slick red, while Asta's eyes go a slick color, like mostly being green, but they're slick a little bit. Of course, this is where Asta actually kind of pulls out a grimoire, appearing right in front of him. This is where it's the 5-leaf grimoire. Now, of course, this is where Asta grabs the anti-magic sword. And of course, this is where, well, the ground underneath him cracks. This is where, well, Naruto gets ready, and of course, when he's angry, he actually activates a Rasengan unconsciously, creating it unconsciously. This is where both Asta and Naruto rushes at, well, what's it called, Mizuki. This is where, well, we go into a time skip of him being beaten the fuck out of. He was close in an inch of fucking life. So yeah. But this is where I'm gonna leave it off for part 1 of What If Asta went to the Naruto world. But yeah. Yeah, I did mention I was gonna make it for 11 minutes. But bye bye. Potato.